Are you back on your way?
DLLS, Dallas Stars podcast. And yes, correct. They did not fire us after yesterday's show with just me and Luds. So they allowed us to come back and Sean join us today. So we got Sean Shapiro, Craig Ludwig, Sam Nestler here. Owen Newkirk still away on his vacation. So we're trying not to bother him as much as possible. Sean, what's going on? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. You guys did great yesterday. The show was, of all the shows in DLLS Stars history, it was definitely one of them. So you guys did great. And it was happy to be here and join you. And I'm happy that we'll talk a little bit more about it off the bat here, but I'm happy that we're in a spot where officially, as of earlier today, we don't have to worry about our sport being locked out or anything like that for at least 4 years, which is better for all three of us who are trying to still be paid to talk about it on these airwaves.
So, yeah. Let's. I was gonna say, Luds. What do you got? What do you got?
No, I was just gonna say, since Sean wasn't here yesterday, Sam, let's ask Sean the question that we led off with. Where is this Dallas Stars team in your mind? Because we kind of talked about it. Are they ahead? Are they behind? Or are they in the same spot?
They're definitely behind where they compared to end of the season, right? We're going off of the end of where they ended this season, or the last 3 seasons, Western Conference Final. So they're definitely behind that right now. There's no question at all about that. If anything, it's actually a little bit more of an interesting team for the regular season, because I think the past couple seasons we've gone into this where we're watching the regular season, we're doing this and that. We're like, all right, this is all cool, but we know the only thing that really matters is, can you get past that Final Four? And I think this season for us, from a content perspective, which isn't great is this season becomes way more interesting, because I think it's a team that is a solid playoff team. I would put them right in the middle of that mix in the Central. I don't know whether, I'm not going to pick who's going to win the division or anything like that, but right in the middle of that mix there. And there's the spots where I think Gully was right when he said it at the press conference. If you were to say there's 8 teams that could win the Stanley Cup, the Stars are one of them. I don't know if 8 teams can win the Stanley Cup, but if you told me I had to make a top 8 list, they'd be in the top 8. I don't know if my list would be 8 teams though. So that's where I put them. They're in that tier of the league where and I'm talking too much, and Owen's not here to cut me off, and this is very weird. So
I'm not going to say anything.
I was gonna try some just to make you feel back at home again. Well, then, in your opinion, Sean, what do they need to put themselves to the front of that pack?
I think there's to kind of get to. I don't think there's anything that gets them to the front of the pack, right? I don't think there's anything where this Stars team is the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. I don't think that doesn't mean they can't win the Stanley Cup, but I don't think there's anything they can do to be the quote unquote favorite in a league where the Florida Panthers exist and they haven't, until they beat the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs. They're still, to me, that's still a dragon they can never be a favorite against. So I do think it's twofold to me. There's a couple internal solutions that need to take some major steps. And there's some pressure on some people. There's going to be, obviously, Glen Gulutzan comes in from a new spot with his past history with the team. And Glen has talked a lot about it. He has these battle scars, and he's got this growth. Now, show us that growth. Show us what you've done, coach, and reaffirm and prove to, because there's definitely, he's probably going to be one of the most questioned coaches all season. Right. And that's, I think, and I spoke to, you guys had Glen on the show and he did a great job. I've spoken with him a little bit myself. I've talked to some other people around him. Glen's a very honest guy about himself. He knows this job is going to come with second and triple and quadruple guessing, because everyone is going to look at before Pete DeBoer took the team to the Western Conference Final 3 times. He has his coaching record. He comes in when he coaches his first game with the Dallas Stars. It's really game 137 or whatever. So he's going to be, and he knows that people are going to be looking at for various reasons. There's going to be two ways. They're going to be looking at, why is Pete DeBoer not there? And then there's going to be other people who thought the Stars should have fired Pete DeBoer, but thought no way they should have hired Glen Gulutzan. Glen is going to have these outside questions, these outside pressures that he has to deal with. So that's a big step of what is Glen going to do there. And then, Luds, we talk a lot about these like internal guys of, okay, is Nils Lundqvist actually going to take that step? We looked a little bit like it midway through last season, got hurt. Maverick Bourque, okay, kid, it sucked for you to get scratched throughout the playoffs. Now come into October and show us that it was wrong. And then you got some other young players who are going to get an opportunity, because Mason Marchment, as much as the contract wasn't working, he's a loss. Jamie, right now, they need somebody. If I'm Glen Gulutzan, and I think you get Jamie on board for this, because Jamie understands that at this point in his career. If I'm Glen Gulutzan, I go into camp and say, hey, right now, Jamie is my second best winger on this team, or my second best left winger on this team. Someone go beat him for that job. And I think Jamie is the guy who will at this point in his career, Jamie will embrace being that bar for other guys to measure themselves against. But that needs to happen. Jamie Benn needs to be pushed down in the lineup by someone else's success, not his play. And if that all happens, this team becomes more intriguing. You probably have to make a move at the deadline to actually be a quote-unquote cup contender. So a lot to do, but it's also a space where there's probably 25 other teams in the league right now. If we're having this podcast for their show, they're like, oh my God, we've made it. So I think that's the perspective I want to bring in right now.
Well, Sam, let me ask you this then. So when we're talking about teams and you're talking about players and you're talking about positions, so you'd have to say that you have a top 5 goaltender. Is that, am I off on that?
I think
nope.
you can make
that's
that.
Okay. Maybe better. I don't know. Top 5 goaltender. Arguably, you have a top 5 defenseman, right? In Miro, when healthy. I mean, I think we expect him to be healthy. I would think that you could probably throw Thomas Harley in the top 15, top 20 defensemen.
Yeah.
So, okay, then we've got Mikko Rantanen. Okay, that's top player. I mean, especially by salary. And then you've got Hintz and you got Robo, right? One guy's a 35 goal scorer, and Hintz is, I don't know where you put Hintz as far as centerman among other centermen. Is he a top 20? Is he a top 15? I don't know where that is. Okay.
Yeah, Robo.
Shouldn't this be easier to push him over the edge then? Because you're basically looking for support players, or you're looking for middle 6 players. Wouldn't that be an easier job from the standpoint of an in-season trade or closer? I mean, instead of having to go out, because don't you always go out and go, man, this guy just put us over the top. So am I wrong on that?
No, I think you're right. I think if you looked at what this team needed, I don't think anyone's arguing this team needs to go out and get a top center or a top winger or anything like that. They did that already. I think they don't necessarily need to get another Colin Blackwell to jump in either. And as Sean said, we're gonna see a lot throughout this. That's why I don't think they're gonna do a whole lot. And me and Sean talked about it before July 1 even hit. We expected it to be quiet, because what are they going to go out and do? They don't know what team they have right now. And that's why I think Sean's point is great about going through the bumps and bruises. It reminds me of Florida, last year, trying to figure out bumps and bruises, get through it, get through the hangover of winning and figure out what your team is. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world for this team, to not just come out, win games because they have the skill in the regular season, and be able to figure out what your team is. And I think
he's still thinking.
He froze for both of us, at least, which means he froze for the viewers at home.
The airport visit was going to be tomorrow, not today.
Well,
but you know what I'm saying, Sean? Like, so is Jim just looking? Oh, there you go, Sam. Yeah. Is Jim then just looking for complementary players?
Yeah, I mean, it's whether that's the desire, whether that's the reality or the desire. Either way, that's the answer, because he doesn't have the space to go get that other place. But a lot of the types of players that he had to let go are the types of players that you're really going to hope he brings in at the deadline, right? You're going to be like, you know what? This team could use a nice physical winger that could play with Tyler Seguin and Matt Duchene at the deadline. Wait, there's one playing for Seattle, right? Right? Like this, like a couple of the players that had to walk to get some of the other things done are the types of players that you almost want to bring back in. And it's the, like, I know you guys talked yesterday about Matt Dumba and his role on this team. And we're still kind of have that big kind of what if. There's that kind of that balloon right there of, well, we all assume Matt Dumba was going to get traded. Like, I think mid-June, we're like, all right, well, if he's here still on this roster by July 1st, I'll be surprised. Well, it's July 8th, and we keep going it here and there. And so it's, there's these other like mechanisms with this team and with Jim where, and it's because, and I give Jim respect for this. It's him actually being how he handles things as opposed to some other GMs that are just a little bit cagey for no reason. Jim legitimately is keeping all of his options open here. And if he's able to find a way to move Dumba and even a Lyubushkin or whatever, even though it feels like Lyubushkin's going to be part of this team in the fall, all of a sudden you're like, okay, yeah, there's space to, especially at the deadline, you can go add someone a little bit higher grade than the mid-tier, mid-complimentary player. But this is a team where if you're Jim made a couple big gambles in the past year. Mikko Rantanen, mortgaging some future pieces for Mikko Rantanen, betting on Glen Gulutzan here. These are some moves where Jim's making those gambles because he feels safe with some of his other bets. Jim believes Maverick Bourque can be a top 6 player. Okay, Maverick's got to go make Jim look like a smart man. Jim believes Justin Ritskovian can be a reliable every night NHLer playing 12 to 13 minutes. He's got to go make Jim look like a smart guy. Nils Lundqvist. Jim Nill has stood by Nils Lundqvist through this for 3 years. He could have dumped him at any point. He always beat DeBoer, and Jim Nill had highly differing opinions on Nils Lundqvist. There's a lot of these bets that Jim Nill has placed, and Jim has gotten his team pretty far. A lot of these bets, Jim has a lot of bets that he's placed that are a lot of little smaller bets that if they all cash in, all of a sudden you're like, you know what? This is a pretty damn good team. But I have a hard time because I'm not the most flowery optimist. I believe that, you know what, probably Maverick Bourque or Justin Ritskovian or Nils Lundqvist, one of those guys probably will take that next step. The question is, are all three going to? And that's the big thing. That's the big thing when you're looking at these gambles with the Stars. Like Justin Ritskovian could just be a mid-level guy who quickly gets bounced back to the AHL. Maverick Bourque may never be that point scorer, but maybe at the same time, Nils Lundqvist goes off. Jim's made all these small bets that need to pan out together, so all of a sudden this team can be back into that contender spot. We keep losing Sam, I think, Luds.
Is Sam frozen again?
I think so. Yeah.
So, hey, do you think that Jim, because you bring up Maverick, and if we're looking for that guy to fill that second line left winger, if you need a draft pick and a player, do you think he would move a guy like Bourque? Or is Bourque here, and is Bourque going to be the guy that he expects to be a top 6 player?
I think Jim expects him to play to be that guy. Now, he never wanted to trade Logan Stankoven before, and he didn't want to trade Maverick Bourque before either. And he held on to. Basically, it was who did Carolina want out of those two? It wasn't really. I've spoken to some people from Carolina a little bit about this. That deal came down to the Stars knew they were going to lose one of the two, and Carolina made their choice on Logan Stankoven, and we can't blame them for that choice. When it comes to Maverick Bourque, I don't think Maverick Bourque can be moved, though, because they don't have – I don't see the miracle pill where you can bring in a guy with that much value where you could – I don't see you bringing in another Mikko Rantanen, right? Maverick Bourque is on that tier of we need him to pan out. He's a homegrown first-round pick. We need him to really click. But those are the guys you trade for the Mikko Rantanens and the superstars of the world, and you trade them with multiple pick packages. Jim doesn't have that, make that move. So Maverick Bourque kind of gets a little bit more runway internally to kind of figure this all out. And that's for a player that I know was really ticked off about how he was handled in the playoffs. Go prove the old coach was wrong. Make the new coach happy. Go do it.
Well, what I'm wondering, Sean, is I think we're about 15 minutes into the show. Should we just do a couple ads right now?
I think so. I think we should.
Okay. All right. Well, Elijah, we're going to do one ad right now, and it's going to be Empire. Just like your favorite, okay, I got to wait for this thing to go away. There we go. So just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. I'll read really slow. Oh, Sam is back, so that's nice to know. And Empire Today can help. Empire Today has a dedicated flooring. Maybe you can get a job with Empire, Sam. Empire Today can help him. Empire Today has a dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they're with you every step of the way. Unlike Sam, it's a whole different ballgame. Get your measurements taken and have all your questions answered so there are no surprises, Sam. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule an install as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount with using promo code DLLS. That's right, $350 off, discount code DLLS. Sam, give it your best shot.
Thanks, Luds. I'm going to talk about Monarch Money here. I currently have dogs barking, Wi-Fi cutting out, StreamYard cutting out, and babies crying. So we got it all. And when
sounds like you're already married.
Speaking of messy, your finances can also be messy and confusing. Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you the full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. It's more than just your average budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center for all of your accounts, investments, and goals. It puts everything right there in front of you so you get a full picture of your financial situation. Don't just manage your money, start building wealth with 50% off your first year. Start managing the finances for the life you actually want, because without the clear financial picture, financial dreams can feel out of reach. A finance tool that people actually love, Luds, actually love. Join over 1 million households and use the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code DLLS at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code DLLS. All right, guys. You guys keep messing me up with all this connection issues. So did you, while I was having a snack, did you guys happen to talk about the CBA?
No, we didn't.
Perfect. Sean,
we're just
the NHL.
Yeah.
The NHL and the NHLPA ratified the new CBA 4 years through the 2029-2030 season. Lay it all. What does it mean? How does the process work? And as you said, how does it affect the NHL?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we're going to have no lockout, no work stoppage through 2030, through the end of the 2029-30 season, which is great because obviously this is a league that's has had the Gary Bettman era has been defined by multiple work stoppages, and Marty Walsh took over as the head of the PA during I think it was right before the end of the 20th. I remember meeting him during the Cup final 2 years ago when it was Florida and Vegas. So during the 23, I met him in Vegas in 2023, and he hadn't taken over yet, but he was getting ready to take over. And one of the things about Marty Walsh taking over for Donald Fair was there was a lot of belief that there would be some more amicable discussions and working together between Bettman and Marty Walsh on this front. And obviously we saw a couple things come together in Marty's time so far. They had the Four Nations face-off, which was a pretty nice success for the league, just from both commercially and financially and everything like that. The players will be in the Olympics next year. That's something that matters a lot to the players. And in the past, it was frankly something the league used as leverage to win other arguments. Like I know there was the players really want to go to the Olympics. It's one of the true, even though at the end of the day, it's 60, 70 players actually get to go. If we really think about between probably a little bit more than that, but less than a third of less than a quarter of the membership actually gets to go to the Olympics. Right. And so, the league used to just use the Olympic little carrot to win other arguments. Right. And that was one of the things where I've talked to players before about this, and one of the things that really people didn't like about Donald Fair's leadership was Donald Fair would get really caught up on the Olympic thing and then lose other battles. And Marty Walsh is someone who has apparently come in and been willing to fight for the Olympic thing, but the other battles as well. And that seems to have a bit of that aggressiveness from the PA, kind of initiating more conversations so that they did in the past, has led to eventual peace. And I think it's kind of a little bit of an example of, instead of passive aggressive negotiations between the two sides, it's just airing their crud at each other right away, and then they work through it over the last 2 years. And so I think it's a really good thing. I think there's a couple we're gonna go. I know Owen texted me today. We'll go through some of the line by line stuff a little bit more, so those specifics later in the week on some of the stuff. But I think in a league, in an era where labor peace is kind of always, we always are going to freak out that there might not be a season or there might be a lockout or whatever, whenever these things come to do. It's notable that this got done. And it's notable that it means we're going to continue to have some international best on best hockey. We're going to have the NHL roll forward this way. And for me, the biggest part that I take out of all this is the players seem to have a little bit more of the voice that to actually get some of the things they want without having to go to a work stoppage. And that's in a good spot. So we'll go more through all of it later this week, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, Sean, because I don't know a ton about it, but I'm sure fans are wondering similar things. How does this whole process work? So, like, you hear all the time throughout the season, a big thing coming up in the CBA talks is blank, or how does that end up getting pushed in? How often do they do these meetings and all that kind of stuff to get this done?
Well, I mean, it's like it's not like a lot of other business deals, and typically in the past, deadlines typically create solutions, right? So, we all, like, just to be silly right here, to use our own examples, at some point within 11 to 12 months ago, somebody from the ALLCITY network talked to Sean Shapiro and Sam Nestler and Craig Ludwig and said, "Hey, we're starting a Dallas Stars show." And we're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Well," and then they're like, "Well, we're starting in August." What do we start? August 15th, whatever it was, right?
Yeah, 20 something, yeah.
And all of a sudden, you saw how those negotiations went for all three of us, where it sounds like one thing, and then as we get closer to it starting, all of a sudden the calls get picked up a little bit quicker, and all of a sudden the conversations fly a little faster. Deadlines make these things happen, and that's it's like a lot of business deals. And so the PA and the NHL kind of created their own, for my understanding of it, kind of created a little bit more of their own internal deadline to kind of get things done by the draft. Like, draft weekend was when they really hammered everything away to trying to get things done so they could go into next season, go into a year where players are going to the Olympics, and not have it be a distraction. So
when does the 84 games start? Not this year, next year, correct? 84 games.
I believe 84 would be the following season. Yeah, it's not next season.
That is one of the things that I think is a good move. I don't know. Yeah. I know it ultimately comes down to money, but the good thing is that there's only, I believe, 4 preseason games and let's get and I just think that I don't think you could have ever done that. I mean, the product, with the way that the players are in shape now, the product is so good when the season starts anyways, because they take care of themselves differently. They train almost year round. They take a few days off and then they're right back at it. I think if you'd have done that back in our era, it would. I mean, the first 40 games would have been a joke. I mean, because we didn't, we never trained the way that we trained, but it wasn't necessary to skate. But now I like that they can just get right into it, play 4 games. Maybe some guys might only get 1 or 2 games, and they're going to play their first game. So yeah, I think that's the best moves.
Sean, didn't the Red Wings play like 8?
They have this is now the Red Wings for this season. They have 8 preseason games in 11 days. Now that's going to be split squad. It's going to be like there's going to be the team, like no player is playing 8 games, right? The most any player, right. But there's, for a lot of these, the Stars preseason schedule will not be impacted as much as some other teams, because the Stars are a little bit of the cost to benefit ratio for the Stars and teams that have to fly for everything like the Stars. It never was the super beneficial thing to do all these preseason games, because now, but for a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference, Sam, you lived in like the Rangers, Devils, Islanders, and everything like that. it's if you can cram in 6 preseason games, if you cram in 8 preseason games like they do in Detroit, where you're playing Toronto and Pittsburgh and they're all right there, and it's just quick, easy drives and little short flights, it allows you to add 2 more games of price point to your season ticket holders, right? Like that's what it was. It's all about the money. You follow the money on that, and so I think preseason was way too long before. No one wins a job. Like I'm a big, people have probably heard me say this as a broken record. Contracts make jobs, right? You go into camp and there's really 2 to 3 jobs. Luds, where on the flip side, like Luds, when you were playing, you're going into preseason, you probably knew about 10, 12 guys who were obviously not losing their jobs, but you run into preseason where it's like, you know what? This team, we've got 8 guys playing for, there's 8 people for 4 jobs. Like there's like when you were playing, preseason actually meant something for some of those guys, where there was guys who were literally and figuratively fighting for a job in preseason, right?
Yeah, and I think that even from the coach's standpoint, they knew that a lot of these players, or most of these players, weren't going to be playing in the regular season. You know, there may be one guy fighting for a spot at a time, and I think let's get him out of here. You know, I mean, let's get him, move him on to the next level. They're not going to be it. We want to get going. We want to get it going. Oh, by the way, Sam, bing bong.
Oh yeah, let's hit that one. From Ken Murphy Photography, Jamie Ben and Craig Ludwig. Always enjoy the content, boys. Thoughts, prayers to our fellow Texans down the hill country. Very sad event. Absolutely. Thank you, Ken Murphy. That is 100% true. All of our thoughts with everyone affected by the floods going on in Texas right now. Appreciate that one, Ken Murphy. Luds, continue.
No, I was just thinking that I think all the way around, I mean, from the coaches on down, they just want to get the regular season moving along. So, in my opinion, that's one of the things that stood out for me, obviously, and not even be involved in that part of it. And I know, kind of going back to what you guys were talking about before with the Olympics, there's one question that I have is I believe the league is going to be shut down for like 17 days during the Olympics. I don't know if that's the exact number, but it's something similar to that. Do we get to be shut down for 7 days?
I'm going to the Bahamas, my bachelor party, so I'm shut down for that break.
Are we taking a show trip for? Is it a show?
I was
going
to say,
yes.
if you got invited, those could be highly rated shows.
You guys didn't get the invite yet, I guess. I'll send it over. We're going to dive with tiger sharks in the Bahamas, so
you're not going. Are you going on a cruise? Are you going on a cruise?
No.
Because I just watched something on Netflix last night. This is called The Poop Deck. Did you see that one?
No, I have not.
Okay, you guys. I'm not even going to go into it and explain it, but there's a reason why it's called that, and you can imagine they were locked onto a boat on I don't know what company it was. They were like 7 or 8 days, and nothing worked. So, anyways, there was a lot of things floating around. So go ahead, move on.
I know what I was going to tell a story. I'm not going to tell a story. I already have enough of a reputation here. So we're going to talk. Luds, you just mentioned it, so we'll talk about it for a minute here, and then we'll carry it over. But you mentioned off-season training and preseason. That's the title of the show today. I wanted to talk about how much it's changed over the years. Obviously, from your days playing to even just looking at the last 10 years and how much every year it seems to change. I mean, me and Robert and Mike Heika and a bunch of other guys were talking when we were at the offices in Frisco this week about just think about the players barely drink anymore. Players barely do these things anymore, which is why that Stanley Cup celebration that Florida's doing is so hilarious and so extreme, because it's like the payoff at the end of the year. The way that players treat their bodies now, the way that they go about the off season, it's like everything is on a periodization throughout the year. So I'm just curious, Sean, your thoughts on what was the big, do you have any idea when that kind of shift started, when it really started to take over?
Well, I mean, I think players, it was probably mid 2000s was when it stopped being the first time that coaches really believed that they no longer had to beat players up to get them into shape. I think it's gotten better and better as the year goes along. But Luds, when did Gary Roberts retire? Do you remember when? Because Gary's retirement was a pretty big marker in that sense. He immediately retired, then went right into running his thing, and then a lot of guys started working with him right away.
Wasn't that right? Early 2000s? Because
yeah,
we were kind of the same, and I want to say he hung around probably, and I'm sure right now Sam is hockey DBing him. He'll be able to tell us.
2009.
9. Oh, that could longer than I thought. I thought it would have been 4 or 5. So how old is he right now, Sam?
It's a great question.
Well, it's not a great
He
question, but
is.
Yeah.
He is. Oh man, I gotta do math. 1966. He was born.
okay. Yeah, so he's 5 years. Okay. So yeah, it's
Who's doing math?
Yeah. So but again, I think that and Gary, I think and he was good friends with Joe, right? Him and Nui were tight. And I think
do we freeze again? Am I frozen?
Just you, Sam.
Oh, you're just fuzzy.
Just you.
No, you're but I think that Gary was probably one of those guys in the beginning that kind of just had that whole thing going on, and then when he ultimately got out, he started it, and then he's got his big thing that he does now. So yeah, it's changed. For me, Sean, what happened is I think that when I first got started, I all I did really was I lifted a lot, and I know that my rookie year when I went in there, I worked hard. I didn't drink or anything all summer long. Coming from college, and you hear about all these other kind of things, and so I didn't do anything. And then I can remember getting to camp, and what camp was 2 weeks long. It was over 14 days, and you would have to run 2 miles to a football field, and then there would be the cones all set up. Back in the day, they had the caveman kind of things to do, and then you'd run all the way back. And and then I'm sitting in the locker room with these guys, and I'm thinking to myself, I didn't drink all summer long. I did this and I did that. They're over there smoking in the locker room before you get on the ice, and they're drinking after every game. And and so then my training kind of adapted to that over the summer. But then as I got older, after my 10th year, I quit, having fun earlier. And then it was earlier. And then it got to the point where, my 16th, 17th year, whatever it was. I mean, now all of a sudden I'd take a week off, 2 weeks off, and I just start right away just to kind of keep it. Cause it takes you a long time to get into shape. It doesn't take you long to get out of it, man. You're out of it. And then you're behind the 8 ball when you finally get there.
Yeah. Let's hop to the ad break before Elijah yells at us through the screen without Owen to keep us on track here. So, all right, I got this one. Game time. Luckily, I have this one, not Sam.
Luckily, you got it because I have no more.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think the NFL schedule is coming out pretty soon. Tickets will be available pretty soon. The FIFA Club World Cup is going on right now. I've heard there's some pretty good deals on tickets going right there. Now, let me tell you about Game Time. It makes scoring NFL tickets faster and easier with exclusive discounts. You'll find great seats for as low as $100. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get the 100% authentic NFL tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so you know exactly what you'll say. No doing math that makes your screen go fuzzy and makes your brain have to think twice, like Sam says. So, the Game Time also makes tickets getting faster and easier, even for those hard to get playoff seats. Now, hopefully, we're talking about the Stars and being in that playoff hunt. They're going to be a team in the playoff hunt. We don't know if they'll be all the way there, which makes all of the playoffs more interesting. So make sure you get in, use this to get that. And we're planning way ahead, but put in your calendar now. Use Game Time for killer last minute deals in June. Refuse from your seat, get the lowest price guarantee, and they take the guesswork out of buying those NHL playoff tickets. I need to get to the call to action in the script. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code DLLS for 20% off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Hey, Sam, what time is it?
Game time. And also hopefully time to have some internet. Thanks, Sean. They told us we could do this, so it's their fault. I'm a big hat guy, as you can see. Whether you need snapbacks, truckers, fitted hats, beanies, or t-shirts, Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. Looking for some gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd? Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear. Start your order, and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel that you need. Head to brandedbills.com and use code BBDLLS. That's BBDLS for 15% off your first order at brandedbills.com. All right, we did it, guys. We did it. We got through the ad breaks. Now, if I die in the next one, it's just Die Hard. You guys can just ramble on about it. Yeah, exactly. So let's continue a little bit with the off-season training here. I'm really curious, Sean. I know you and I talked about Jake Ottinger's training, and I wrote an article about it early, I think in November or December. It was super interesting to me to see how detailed some of those things are. And I know you're the goalie guy. You've talked about, I can't remember which goalie it was that used certain tools and VR. And I just would love to hear your concept on how you've seen goalie training, both in the season and off season, change over the years.
Yeah, from a goaltending perspective, one of the realities is there's too many, especially if you're somebody with Jake's workload. There's not the time to to completely rework your game, right? There's not the time to you're always there's you can always make tweaks in season, but reworking, like, if you're a goal, like, some goalies work on their stance in the off season, right? Where it's like, you know what, hey, I was beating high glove a little bit too often. Let's take a look and break that all down. Like, there's way more you can go back to the foundation in the off season that requires a lot of the work that you can't do in season. That's a big thing with goaltending now. And it's also, there's a lot of these tools now, like Joey Decord, the goalie for the Seattle Kraken. He uses he's one of the several goalies who use the virtual reality NHL Sense Arena, the headset, in the offseason. And it's something where you can work on some of these tools now without the physical wear and tear on it, where you can put the headset on and you can face NHL shooters. You can work on the eye tracking. You can work on play reading without the wear and tear of getting on the ice. And so it's kind of that's a big thing now with goaltending, where it's a spot of you're going to find the ways to ramp up. And I think it was I think Ben Bishop was probably one of the last, like, now Fleury, obviously Fleury just retired, so Fleury's probably the real end of that there. But like, Ben Bishop was one of the guys who not that he didn't take the offseason seriously, but there's a reason Ben Bishop had so many injury problems. Jim Montgomery famously said, well, we may have to look at to see how Ben trains in the offseason. Ben was from that generation of goalies who didn't put in as much of the recovery and work off the ice.
Yeah, he was crazy. He was crazy skinny and lanky, right? I remember seeing him, like, he didn't have a ton of strength on his body.
Exactly. And so there's a lot now just kind of learning from that just recently retired generation of how do you make sure your body is ready for October. Now, there's also, like, the other thing that's interesting, and this is just a larger than NHL question, Sam. There's also the balance, right? Of, for the same reason in baseball, you don't want kids throwing curveballs till whatever age it is, and you don't want them playing baseball all year round. There is a bit of the balance of how do you give the time and for the body to recover at some point, right? Like I mean, I think it was Jason Dickinson. I remember him and I had the lengthy conversation about how he had his hip surgery at 23, I think it was, and he's like, I'm 23 years old. I shouldn't be having a hip surgery. But when you skate 12 months of the year and you go all year round and you never play the other sports, that you never give your body the break, you got to find the break there. So it's really, like, for NHL players, it's their job, right? It's your job to be ready for October to attack the season, because everyone else is going to be ready. It's the interesting thing, just from a trickle down impact of what it's done to the sport overall, where we've got players who are like, good. Caden Lindstrom is a taken number 3 overall, not this year, but prior season, Blue Jackets pick, dealing with a back injury at 19, 20 years old. Roger, who was it? It was Martone. Was it Martone or McQueen who had the back injury that went with the tall forward in this draft? I can't remember which one.
I can't remember.
Yeah. But you're talking about kids 18, 19 years old having these type of injuries. And part of it is, I don't know for sure, but, like, I know, like, with the Caden Lindstrom one, like, did he ever take the time to just let his body heal? Or do you get, when you get your body back to 80%, you push right through? And so, Luds, I was saying how it makes sense from a player. If it's your job and you're an NHLer, it makes sense. But and you could probably talk to about this with your U18 team. There's a spot where a lot of these kids, sometimes now this trickles down to how kids 16, 17, 18 approach the summer. And some of them never get the time to recover from an injury that just becomes more. And it was that's where we were going with this.
They don't recover from an injury. And not only that, my issue with some of that at the ages that you're talking about, especially, 15, 16, 17, they love to be on the ice and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. But I don't think we ever allow them to find out if they're going to be good at any other sport. You know what I mean? They're on the ice. You've turned what's supposed to be a fun time in your life and all that kind of stuff into a career. It's different for an NHL guy that trains for, 10, 11 months of the year. And you take, 3-4 weeks off or whatever. But now that's what the kids are doing. And you don't find out, can they be baseball players or basketball or football or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, like I think about how I fell in love with this sport is one of those things that would have never happened in today's day and age. I was a kid growing up and I played a lot of soccer as a kid, but in the summer, there was a summer rec program that was just a bunch of kids playing street hockey with a couple high school kids running as counselors. And we would go down there every Monday through Friday. We'd go down there at 9. They parked a couple cars to block off the big parking lot, and we would just play pickup street hockey from like 9 to 11. No one had a phone. No one did anything. And I had no idea I even liked the sport, right? Like I just picked it up that way, playing summer street hockey and everything like that. And that's something that I picked up through that randomness. And like now I think about it now, like I have my own kids and I think about how like everything's organized and all these kids do everything. And I'm like, geez, like if I told a parent like, just send them down to the parking lot over there. There's going to be 2 16-year-olds there that just pulled a car over. Like that's how I fell in love with the sport. And it's funny how like that's just the sport specialization and everything like that is wild now. And it's not just hockey, right? Luds, like there's like, I know, and we're touching on it. I'm sure there's lots of people can touch on this with other topics as well. But like, if you're a kid and you're 6 years old, like I got a friend who has a 6-year-old who likes swimming. All of a sudden he's swimming 5 days a week. And I'm like, how do you know if he's going to like tennis or baseball or basketball, right? Like it's kind of crazy how much kids just get jumped into that all the way.
Yeah, and some of the other things that I have, it kind of creeps into the game is that when you're doing all that off-season stuff, it's more like you're doing specific things, right? There's cones out there and you're skating and all, the skating and the stick handling, all that kind of stuff. You would not believe how hard it is for us at the 17, 18 level to get some of that out of their game. And they just want to stick handle and they just want to skate and they don't play the game the right way. And unfortunately, it ends up being like a skills competition in the games. And for them, they have to understand that there's guys upstairs that want to see if you can play the game. They want to know if you have hockey sense and they want to know the time and score and all the little things that we try to take some things out of them when we get them and then try to plunk a couple other things into them. It's hard to do that because they always seem to gravitate. We had one player in our team last year. And, he's going to be a better player this year. He had 2 goals. One of them was the Michigan. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he tried it like every single time he was on ice. Like you can't, those are the kind of thing. And this stuff kind of, the reason I was asked about that CBA earlier, I just wonder, like, does the product ever suffer? Because the guys that are going over to the Olympics for 7 days, I don't know where they're going, Italy, France, I don't know, Germany, wherever they're going.
Italy.
Yeah. So, but it's always the best player. It's the best players you rely on from game to game, especially in the playoffs. And then when you do get that break, it's the best players that got to go play again, and they're the one, they never get that break. And I just wonder, and then if I'm management or ownership, I would be concerned about, when you get tired, you get hurt. And so do you get hurt at the wrong time of the year? You're coming down the stretch and the playoffs are right there. So those are the kind of things that I worry about it. And, and I get it. It's about the revenue and all that other kind of stuff. But so anyway, so that's where we're at.
Luds, the other thing too is like you don't have to go we're not saying that kids have to take a full season off. You can play. I played sports every season, like growing up, right? But you can stay in shape. You can get better at the other sports by playing other sports. I fully believe that I was a better hockey player because I played football. I was a better lacrosse player because I played hockey. I think that you grow in understanding, not just on the ice and the actual skills of the game, but understanding how to be a good teammate, understanding maybe you're on the lacrosse team and you're a backup, whereas you're the star on the hockey team. You can learn valuable lessons from being that backup or that third line guy on a hockey team. And I just think that, like, I'm a firm believer that kids should grow up and play multiple sports. I think it explores things, it teaches you different values. And I would even go as far to say is if I was an NHL player, I know I'm right there, just right below the level. But if I was an NHL player, I'd go in the summer and I'd go play some other sports. I go join another league.
There's a problem with that, Sam, is that the organizations want you to come to their spring camps. They want you to come to their tryout camps, and they're trying to pick their teams. And so it's like, if you're not going to come, there's other reasons. I mean, Sean, you know the other reasons. So, but if you're not going to come to our camp, I'm not sure we're going to save that spot. We got these other kids here. So, so you have a spring camp, then you have the tryout camp, and then you have this camp, and and then they get a couple weeks off, and then they're starting already. They're coming back in the middle of August or whatever it may be. So, there's other things with that too.
One of the things too that I spent in 2019, I spent 2 weeks in Finland, and I got kind of the tour of the Finnish system for hockey. And it was interesting. It was kind of refreshing too at the time, where one of the ways that when everything is the way that Finland runs a lot of their youth teams and the way things are run, it's the system where each individual team is responsible for their area working with Hockey Finland. It's not necessarily about building a team that's going to win the 10U, 11U championship. And they do have a national team, right? They do have a national team at 16, 14 and everything like that. But instead of it being like the U.S. national team program, where it's a residency program, where we take these 17-year-old kids, the best 17-year-olds, best 16-year-olds, and put them in one team for 2 years. In Finland, it's a camp that there's a new invite every single. Thank you, Elijah. There's a new camp every single week. There's a camp basically 8 months out of the year. So in October, hey, we invite this group. But you know what? Then those kids go back and play with their local area and everything like that. And this is one of the things Yuri's worked with people on. They've got talent evaluators all over the place. You know what? If this kid has been outplayed by this other kid in his local area, all right, you can get that national team invite. It's the spot where it kind of keeps that. It's not necessarily, and we can say it out loud, Luds, right? Like there's financial and there's financial.
You said it, I didn't say it.
Yeah, there's financial reasons and there's who paid the checks and who mom and dad are that go into these teams. There's so many politics that go into making these teams, and it's definitely it is a reality. And I think one of the best things someone told me about, I've talked to someone from USA Hockey about this who has been pushing back, and they were talking about a goaltending perspective, but it applies to everything. We care way too much about winning the 8U tournament. We care way too much about winning the 10U tournament, where too many times you pick the team that's going to win that 8U tournament, and so the kids get left behind who might be the late bloomer. And it's, I don't know. Sam, how did we get on a full TED Talk about the state of youth sports? How did this happen?
Well, Sam keeps freezing up. We got to keep throwing stuff out there.
I will tell you this, talking about finances, pressure on young athletes couldn't be a better segue to what we're getting to next, which is a little bit of NIL, Gavin McKenna, and then maybe a little Luds Stanley Cup story next here on DLLS. But first, we got to talk about being a diehard, because being a diehard is the best. It's pretty simple. Right now, we have another ball knower bonus coming up. I believe the MLB All-Star Game is this weekend in, I think, Atlanta. So what you got to do is you got to sign up, go to our store, make a purchase for, I believe it's over $25, $35, something like that. Pick whether you believe the American League or the National League will win the MLB All-Star Game. I'm not sure if they still do this, but I believe that gives the team home field advantage for the World Series, which is absolutely hysterical. And if you get it right, we will give you a gift card for the amount that you purchased on our site. Pretty simple. We also have the DLLS Vegas trip coming up to Las Vegas for the Dallas Cowboys against the Las Vegas Raiders. You get to hang out with the DLS Cowboys crew. go on an awesome trip, party in Vegas. I know Luds is still trying to figure out a way to get there. If you're a diehard, you get access to all of the writing on the site with no ads from Sean, from me, from all the other writers with the Cowboys, Mavs, and Rangers. You also get access to the Discord, which tomorrow, while I'm at the airport here in San Diego and Luds is God knows where, we will be doing a Luds damn Discord and getting all of those questions out there. We may even do 2 full segments of it. So Luds, be ready for, get your talking words ready. Yeah. Exactly. We also have amazing merch. The Ottinger shirt is one of my favorites. The Finnish Mafia was one of our top sellers. We have the Wyatt Johnston 16-bit and the Miko finisher shirt as well. And then the Captain and the Moose shirt that we had from the playoffs. It's pretty simple. Be a diehard. There's no reason you shouldn't be yet. It's a fun time. You get access to hang out with us. Sometimes we go hang out in the Discord and just talk about nothing. We get to ask Luds questions. You get to read writing without ads and whatever else you want to do. So be a diehard, alldlls.com/diehard. All right, Sean, we're talking college hockey. We know, I believe it tonight, I believe is a big, the official announcement, but all signs and reports point towards the projected number one pick next year, Gavin McKenna, committing to Penn State University. We've heard some things about NIL and money involved. Go ahead, lay it out and tell us what's going on in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've got
hold on, time out.
Wait.
Since we're talking college hockey,
Yeah.
I got these used when I walked onto the University of North Dakota.
This is the first time on DLLS that we are seeing the Craig Ludwig shin pads, and they are in a case. I cannot imagine what it smells like in there in that case.
Oh, it's terrible.
That's awful. That's amazing. Do you have that hung up too, Luds?
Yeah, it's been sitting in the garage in the other house.
They're already framed the way the Hockey Hall of Fame has asked for them, huh, Luds? That's exactly what they've asked for, right?
That's exactly what they asked for, and that's exactly what they look like.
Yeah. So while Luds got a pair of used shin guards that are now hanging, that can now be hung on his wall, Gavin McKenna is getting $700,000 reportedly to play at Penn State next year.
Tell him how old he is, Sean.
17-year-old, going to be making $700,000, and we called that basically the Colin Blackwell, but and at half Colin Blackwell's age. So I wanted to throw this to you, Sam, real quick, just because it's, as someone who I know is a big college hockey aficionado and everything like that. What does the NIL, there's 2 levels to it. There's the CHL player being eligible, and then there's the NIL money being paid out. How does it change your view when you look at college hockey as the sport there, Sam?
Yeah. So I'm on one side of each of those, right? I think the CHL was a great idea. I don't think any kid should be told when they're 15, 14, whatever years old, you have to figure out your next 5 years of your future. I'm all on board for that. I think the more people that can play college hockey, the better. The NIL, I'm on the complete opposite side. I was excited when it first started, right? Hey, hearing some these college football player teams are making millions and billions even off of these players, and they're getting nothing for it. So the idea of it was nice. What it has now become with the transfer portal and the NIL, I think it takes away from what college sports should be. And for me personally, the reason hockey's the only professional sport I watch. And I just think hockey's a little different. Every other sport I watch is college. And that's because when you go play college sports, or at least used to, you go in to play to win a championship, to build a brotherhood, to build a team, to make friends for the 2 people standing up for me at my wedding next summer are my 2 teammates from college sports. Like, that's what college sports are about: winning championships, building a team. Now you have the NIL and the mix of the transfer portal in with there, which go very much hand in hand. And all of a sudden, you don't even know what team you're going to have going into a season. You got a quarterback who's going to take your franchise to the next level. He decides he doesn't like it and he's gone, and your team is completely different. And I just think that takes away from the way the sport should be played. And I think the big one for me, and this is going to sound like an old man kind of cliche, but it doesn't teach the right values to these kids either. You go in, and if you, let's say, let's take McKenna, he goes into Penn State, a different circumstance where he's going to play 4 years, let's say, of college hockey. and he goes in and he hates it. He's not a fan of the team. He doesn't really like it. Maybe he's not playing enough. He can quickly get up and decide to go somewhere else. You don't have to stick
the
through
problem
it.
right there.
You don't have to
That's the
stick
problem.
through anything, right? You don't. And personally, I went through the same thing in college. I transferred after my freshman year. I didn't really like my first year out at Chapman in California. I wasn't playing. I had an All-American goalie in front of me, and I was bummed, and I wanted to go somewhere else. I was looking at other schools, and my dad said, absolutely not. Said, no chance are you transferring twice. And because of that, I stuck with it. I grew and learned and became the starter. I earned the time I got. We won a national championship, and it was the best memories, best friends I ever made in my life. If you change that and you flip it and you are just jumping around, you play at 5 schools in 6 years and you're getting money here and there, it just takes away from everything that I think college sports are about. So that's what bums me about it. I don't think that college athletes shouldn't make any kind of money off of what they do, but I don't think it should affect the game as much as it does.
Who's the player that was drafted by Philly and didn't want to go there and ultimately went to San Jose or Anaheim?
Cutter Gauthier.
Okay.
Yeah.
That, to me, there's going to be more of that. No, I don't want to go there.
I don't like it there.
And that's the part that I don't like. And well, there are 2 things for me when I think about it. Not that I wouldn't have been one of them guys that got that kind of money, but I'm like, if you're 18 years old and you're in college as a freshman, you play 2 days a week, okay? You have a lot of off time, and you have a lot of friends, and you meet a lot of people, and occasionally they go to bars, and you're making $700,000. I'm wondering how many of them end up getting in trouble at some point just because of the sheer money and people knowing that you have the money and whatever it may lead to. And that would have been my fear for myself, to be honest with you. But then even bigger than that is where, I didn't like it here. I didn't like that. We didn't, I didn't like the coach. I just want to go someplace else and pay. Now all of you have that in you as an 18, 19-year-old, and then something like the Gauthier thing happened. And I'm not saying that wasn't part of that then, but it's like, you got to go through it. You got to learn how to be a good teammate. You got to learn to get along with you got to learn systems, and you got to be part of that culture instead of just, jumping from rock to rock. That's why, I mean, it's good for them and it'll set them up. And I hear some of these crazy numbers in football. I mean, I heard somebody today, I think this morning, one of the college players made $12 million before he even got to his pro team. Like, I don't know,
Yeah, and from a hockey perspective, here's the interesting trickle-down effect. There's going to be, if you're the late bloomer and you get drafted 5th, 6th round or whatever, and you're going to a college team and, an NHL team holds your rights till 22 under the new CBA and everything like that. The average AHL salary, for those who don't know, is about $65,000, right?
Yep.
If you are a junior or if you're a senior and if you're a junior and you're probably ready to play pro hockey and say you're at one of these bigger programs, getting that school to pay you that amount of money, like, it's not like the big one, the Gavin McKenna one is a lot of money and it's eye-popping, but it creates more it's going to create some interesting decisions for those guys that are really good college hockey players who can be like, you know what? I can delay going pro. I can create some more freedom to get control of my player rights, play past that 4-year mark, and make about the same amount to go and stay, or not even stay. Like, you could go to another school. Like, you could be the kid who jumps from, like, the Matthew Wood one has been my biggest annoyance. Matthew Wood, UConn gives Matthew Wood a chance to play as a 17-year-old. He goes there for 2 years, takes some lumps and everything like that, and then jumps ship to Minnesota 2 years later, where UConn was basically used as like a feeder school for Minnesota. That's the stuff that annoys me. The McKenna one, at least we all know he's only going to be there for 6 months.
Yeah, I just think it changes it all. And like Luds was just talking about, I mean, I think of, after you do this, right, you go through all that. Imagine you get a job. Like, if you're not going pro, let's say you're not a pro athlete, you get this situation, you transferred 3 times in college sports, you go get a job somewhere. How are you ever going to stick past that first initial sticking point of, this is not, my favorite month of this job, or this is a little challenge I got to get through, or take it even further. I mean, these are life values that I believe that you learn that I don't think these kids are learning. And as Luds just said, it's trickling into the highest levels. This is not just a thing that's there in the 12-year-old hockey players or now college. It's going to keep going up and up into the professional ranks. And I think it makes don't think it does anything good for the sport, just to be totally honest and blunt about it. I really don't.
It was, I'm surprised that this is the discussion we all went without Owen on the show. So good for us. We went much higher brow than Owen probably is expecting when he's listening. Luds had his show and tell. We have a minute, 45 seconds left. Elijah, throw something on the screen, then I have my show and tell. Okay, I have got.
Oh, yeah.
So the Anchorman. Now you can take me back on the screen, Elijah. I've got the trophy right here. We got the beer right here. And we're going to celebrate right here.
Yes, let's do it. This has to happen right here. Yep. Go. Both of you. Oh, you're both going.
There we go. So a little more in there too. So
I'll drink it off air since it's not our brand.
Boys. And
way to be. That's what that's
stories. It's not Luds Stanley Cup stories, but we have had someone drink from a cup on the show. And thank you for joining us.
Shin pads,
everything.
Drinking out of the cup. We have it all. That's what July 8th is all about on DLLS.
Have a good summer, everybody.
Yes.
See you in September.
Hey, we will see you. Me and Luds will see you tomorrow. I believe it is at 1:00 Central Time, a little earlier, and we will do this again. Thank you, Sean. That was very, very good insight today. Thanks, Luds, for hanging out. Thank you to Elijah. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for everyone that stuck out through my internet. We will see you guys tomorrow here on DLLS Stars.
We all silly like the mayor.